I will call the meeting of the Gloucester City Council for Tuesday, November 12th to order. A reminder, this meeting is being recorded by video and audio in accordance with the state open meeting law. The first order of business is the flag salute and the moment of silence, and I'm going to ask members of Troop 60 to lead us in the flag salute. So, gentlemen, go ahead. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, first order of business.
First order of business is oral communications.
The public shall have the opportunity at every regularly scheduled meeting to be heard under oral communications on matters not appearing on the agenda. Oral communications shall allow any resident who has a request or complaint of any nature relative to city business to appear before the council, state their problem without debate, and the matter shall be referred to the proper agency through the office of the mayor. The resident will be notified within a 2-week period relative to the disposition of same, and a copy shall be forwarded to the City Council. Persons speaking under oral communications shall be limited to 3 minutes each, and the Council President shall not allow complaints as to individual performance. So, anyone for oral communications? Lynn, why don't you come forward and do yours? Thank you.
Thank you, Council President Lundberg. My name is Lynn Parisi, 40 Rogers Street, 3C in Gloucester. And I'm here not to complain. I'm not here to say anything horrendous. It's all good. It's only all good. I know most of you, but for those that don't know me, I am on the steering committee for Gloucester 400, and I'm also the outreach chair. And I'm here to invite all of the city councilors-elect, Mayor Safathi Romeo-Taken, Jim Destino, to our first signature event leading up to 2023. It's happening on Sunday, November 24th at the Gloucester Unitarian Universalist Church on Church Street. And you are all welcome and most encouraged to come and support the effort. We are very far still, in some minds, away from 2023, but for some of us, my knees are knocking right now that we're so close. So, given that, the program is really simplistic in that it covers Gloucester's first century from 1623 to 1722, and it's simplistic because the Puritans that came here were simple people. They lived simply, though some had a lot of money. They still lived simply because they didn't have cell phones, cars, computers, So they were simple people coming to a place that was already inhabited by Native American Indians. So given that, we have two very notable speakers, Mary Ellen Lepionka and Stephanie Buck, who will be speaking to issues of that first century, starting with Native American Indians, as I said, that were extant before the Europeans arrived, how that went for all of them, what's the difference between Puritans and Pilgrims? We get that question all the time because there is a distinct difference. And then moving on further into the century, Stephanie Buck will be talking about immigrants that came along the way. Who were these first settlers? What did they do? What advances did they make in that 100 years? I think we'll all be blown away. And one of the highlights of the program is that descendants of the numerous, I know because I checked it all out with the Archives Committee and volunteers in the archives downstairs, all the research we did. There are numerous first settlers, surnames, who live among us now, myself included, not the Parisi side, but Lurvy. And those descendants from those people are all going to read all of the names of those first settlers in the first century, little by little. It'll go by quickly, though. There aren't as many as I won't even tell you how many there are. Maybe I'll run a contest on Facebook. But anyways, there are a lot. So I heartily invite you. The closing part of the program will involve singing a psalm from 1698. It's one you all know. And there's a little surprise twist to it that I don't want to give away. So with that, and I bet you're not in alphabetical order to make my life easy. No. Okay, I'll pass these out in a second. But I would also invite all of you to attend as well and tell your family, friends, anyone that has been in Gloucester for any amount of time, because it really is about your time on the timeline of that 400 years. Whenever you got here, you own that. And you need to honor that and celebrate it. So here we go. I'm going to hopefully get these passed out correctly. You'll do, oh, I love you, Dana.
Dana will do that. Great.
Yay,
Thank you so
Dana.
much, Lynn.
Thank
Appreciate that, and thank you for all the work you're doing. Anyone else for oral communication? Okay, next order of business, Madam Clerk, is, yeah. So next order of business is our presentations, and on the agenda is the Magnolia Pier presentation, but we're going to do a little ad hoc change here, and the members of Troop 60 would like to address the City Council, so we will allow them to make their presentation first. Gentlemen, go ahead.
Thank you. Hello to everyone in attendance tonight. My name is Henry Jakes, and I'm an Eagle Scout of Boy Scout Troop 60 Gloucester. Tonight, I just want to talk about two things in front of the council, both the importance of Scouts and a thank you to the City of Gloucester. I've been an Eagle Scout since August 27th of this year, and I've committed hundreds of hours community service to Gloucester. Earlier this year in the summer, I led a community service project restoring the First Parish Burial Ground, and with my fellow Scouts, we've committed hundreds upon thousands of hours community service. Scouts has offered me a way to improve my character, gain life skills, and learn communication skills that I would never have before. Some of the best experiences of my life have been with the people standing right behind me and interacting with them in the world. Having a facility or center location has been a critical part of this, and the city has been giving us that privilege for years upon years. And I want to say thank you for that, and along with the rest of my fellow Scouts tonight, we want to say thank you through a different way. We'd like to invite all members of the council and Mayor Safathia to a turkey cook we're putting on ourselves Saturday at 6 o'clock at the Fraternity Club. And now with the rest of my Scouts, we just like to say thank you.
Hi, I'm Evan Wood, and I'd like to say thank you. Oh, rank second class. Supposed to put that in. My name is Caleb Kent, and I would like to thank the City Council.
My name is Gavin Harris, and I would like to personally thank the City Council for your support.
My name is Owen Parsons, and I would like to thank the council for all your support throughout our journey.
My name is Caden Lewis, and I'd like to thank you for your support for us.
My name's AJ Lewis. I have been a part of Scouts for 9 years now, and I appreciate that you are giving us a place to not only work, but to meet new people, because I've never met half of these people here. And a lot, like Henry, for example, oh, he's such a bright, intelligent person, and I would have never learned so much without him. And over the last year, I had over 230 service hours. Without Boy Scouts, that would have not happened. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Danny Puglisi, and I'd just like to say thank you for supporting Scouting, because I think it's pretty important to the city. It helps out a lot. We give back a lot, so I think it's very important. I'd just like to say thank you.
My name is Ryan Lewis, and I thank you for your support.
Well, thank you, Troop 60. We are fortunate to have you as one of our tenants in one of our special buildings in West Gloucester, and thank you for all you do for the community. Okay, so the next order of business, Madam Clerk?
Next order of business is the presentation, the Magnolia Pier Fundraising Committee regarding presentation of a check for their fundraising efforts to date.
So I would like to invite Ted Costa up to the podium, and please give us your description of what you're doing here, Ted. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President, Vice President, members of the City Council, Madam Mayor. We are here tonight, and we also thought it was best that we tap the assets of Troop 60. So we're going to ask them to come up, and they're going to bring up a life-size rendition of a check. I'd also like to ask the members of the Magnolia Pier Committee, and anybody here from Magnolia, not to be bashful, come up and stand behind us. Jump on up. So we entered into what is looked at, having served on the City Council, as one of the better public-private partnerships that I can say has ever happened. We had a pier that was devastated in the storms of March of 2018, as you all know, and we rose to the occasion with the leadership of the current mayor and the mayor that's going to be with us for the next 2 years, Safathia, Romeo Tinkin, and Jim Destino. We were given a charge to go ahead with our ward councilor and try and find a way to get this pier fast-tracked. We dove in, decided to raise some money, and never looked back. And today we are here with a great group of people, and we are here more not so to give you guys a check, but to show the rest of the city what the example should be going forward. It's not about sitting here with your hand out, saying, oh, woe is me, come and help. It's about taking some leadership, taking some charge, taking some ownership, having some skin in the game, and presenting a check. To date, we're not giving up. We're going to get Councilor O'Hara to come out and ring a bell with us like he has from day one to raise some more money. But we've got a check today for $182,688.77. And the check is signed by our treasurer, Noreen Gillis, who did yeoman's work getting things accounted for, getting money to you people. We just can't go on and name the people that I wrote an article in the paper, and I can't thank enough people that it's beyond my belief how happy this project went, how well it was received, how much everybody kind of chipped in, and it just it warms your heart to think that we belong to such a great village in such a great community made up of villages. And I don't know where else to go with this, but to say thank you for letting us do this for you.
Well, thank you so much for the example, the wonderful example. And Mayor, if you're going to accept on behalf of the city, and if any...
I'd like to say a few words, if I may, through the chair. First of all, thank you all. When we saw some of the damage through some of the storms that people don't believe about coastal resilience and climate change, but we saw it happening over and over and over. And as we stood there, we were all with Sean standing next to the pier when we slowly saw it vanish. And it was kind of difficult because, you know, like the footbridge at Good Harbor, let's repair it, let's fix it. The more we keep fixing and the more it keeps going down, I loved this idea when they came forward, and it was very astronomically high price, and we all know that. But they didn't say, you know what, you have to do this. This is yours, and you doing it. And they said, well, let's do it right. Let's get a design. Will you help us get the design, and let's see where we go from there, and we will work together with the city. We all want to enjoy this. This belongs to us. It's for years and years and generation. We want to make sure that the future generations can use it, and how can we do that, and what can we do? And this is what's meaning networking, meaning this city, and with the citizens saying, we all are part of this city. It doesn't matter who's mayor, who's council. This is ours. It belongs to all of us. And let's do something. And I saw quite a bit during the fundraisers, and a lot of you, you know, either shucking something or cooking something or doing something. So it means a lot to the community because, you know, when they say Magnolia, it's still the zip code 01930, even though we had our own mayor there. And when Dick Wilson came in and said, I want to talk to Jim Destino, I says, what about Dickie? He says, I want to talk to Jim Destino. We need the money. We're going to do it. And I want to talk to Jim. I says, well, you're talking to me about it. Is it about the bridge? Yes, but he's a stickler for budget. I want to talk to Jim Destino. And I says, well, you know what? It still has to go through that. He says, you know what? Let's do it together. I'll start, and we'll do it together then. Now can I talk to Jim Destino? I said, okay, now you can. And there you go. That's the results. $182,000. And you know what? They said this is just a little bit of it. So thank you to everyone. But you know what? This what shows, like the Scouts participating. You know, thank you very much, because for all the work that they've done, all the volunteers and everything that happens in the city. And that's why it's a team, people. That's why it doesn't belong just to the city. When anything that is a property of the city belongs to all of us. And for all of us to interact, it wasn't just Ward 5. It was everyone's ward. So thank you all that came. Thank you all that donated. And for all of you who complained, if you all give $1,000, we would have had the bridge 10 years ago. But it's all right.
Mayor, can we take a picture of you? Sure.
Yeah, so if Mayor and Ted could be by the check, and
By the way,
Councilor
John
Nolan.
Dunn has the real check. I didn't take it.
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't have the members of the city council come.
All right, let's go, councilors. Fall in.
1 minute recess? There's plenty of people in the audience. Jennifer, she did great for John. John, you need to come up. You helped. John McCarthy, you get up here. Yes, you were the chief back then. We had to tell people not to get on it.
Hold on a second.
You did it in a nice way. Everyone get up who's participated or just wants to take a picture with the mayor. I'm not jumping off and down. You're not have to pay me. You give me $100,000.
Mr. President, again, thank you for giving us the chance to do this. There are a couple of people that we left off in our letter. Senator Bruce Tarr was with us from day one. He was at auction number 1. He's with us here tonight. You know, we couldn't have gotten our feet off the ground if he didn't do what he did for us at the Bath and Tennis. Planned on coming for an hour, stayed the whole night, and I'm going to put the person that signed the check in a spot. But Noreen works for the Cape Ann Savings Bank, and she went above and beyond as far as civic duty goes, and we did tap into Bob Gillis's time with her down at the Cape Ann Savings Bank. And, you know, it just, it couldn't happen without that effort. Thanks.
Thank you. Senator Tarr, since you graced us this evening with your presence, would you like to say a few words?
A few.
A few? He knows what that means. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. President, and through the members, I want to say how delighted I am to see a big check being presented to the city that isn't from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts on one occasion. And that isn't to say that there is not hopefully some more money to be coming from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. In fact, members of the council may know that in one of the bond bills that we passed just a short while ago, we also had an authorization for money for Magnolia Pier. Oftentimes that money is difficult to get released, but we're going to continue to work on that. But I just want to come up and again offer my congratulations and thank you to everyone that was just at this microphone, Ted Costa, the entire team from Magnolia for really showing what citizen participation and engagement is all about. And it also would not have happened without the leadership of the members of the council, particularly Councilor Nolan, Councilor O'Hara, Councilor Holmgren was involved. You were all involved. And it was really a great team effort to show how people can roll up their sleeves when they see a need that we didn't expect to arise, and can make a real difference in a very short period of time and creating a lasting asset where more memories will be made and more enjoyment of access to the ocean will be had. And every time we all go to that pier, I think we're all going to also say, this is a reminder it's a reminder that we can get things done in a collaborative way. So congratulations to everyone. Thanks to the members of the council and Mayor Taken, and also Jim Destino, who I know was involved in some of these financial discussions. What a great team effort. Congratulations to everybody, and thanks for letting me share.
Thank you very much, Senator Tarr. And again, on behalf of the council, Ted and the committee, thank you so much for your efforts, and we will keep joining you in those efforts as you go along. Thank you very much. And you're welcome to stay for the really exciting stuff like the tax classification we're going to discuss in a little while if you want. There you go. That's much better. Time better well spent. Thank you very much. Okay, Madam Clerk, next order of business.
Next order of business is the consent agenda.
I want to know ask if any councilors have anything to remove from the consent agenda. Seeing no hands, to entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. Next item of business.
Next item of business is the Budget and Finance Standing Committee report of November 7th.
Okay, Councilor Cox.
Good evening, everybody. We do have a unanimous consent agenda this evening, so I'd like everybody to take a minute to review that. If there's anything that needs to be pulled, let me know. Sorry. Is that better? I think it was your first time using it. Anybody have any questions on the consent agenda? I move that it be accepted.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Since we're going to have a roll call vote for that, and that will include all the items on the consent agenda, and everybody's read it, and nobody has any questions. Great. So, Madam Clerk.
Councilor Nolan? Yes. Councilor Cox?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor O'Hara. I'm
Yes.
sorry. Councilor Gilman?
Yes.
Councilor Heck?
Yes.
Councilor Holgram?
Yes.
Councilor Blank?
Yes.
Councilor Lundberg?
Yes.
And Councilor Memhard is absent. So the motion to accept the BNF unanimous consent agenda passes on a vote of 8 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 absent.
Thank you very much. Councilor Cox.
Budget and Finance voted unanimously to recommend the City Council approve 2020 SA7 for $680 for the purpose of purchasing 2 additional cast iron city seals to replace the old existing city seal, and I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. You want to? What?
No,
No.
I mean,
we know what this is for.
they're
so
purchasing 2 city
right.
seals. So
Yeah, this is
it's
for
a
the
roll call.
clerks of. Okay, so it's roll call.
Councilor Nolan?
Yes.
Councilor O'Hara?
Yes.
Councilor Cox?
Yes.
Councilor Gilman?
Yes.
Councilor Heck?
Yes.
Councilor Holgram?
Yes.
Councilor LeBlanc?
Yes.
And Councilor Lundberg.
Yes.
The City Council motion to approve supplemental appropriation 20 SA7 in the amount of $680 passes on a vote of 8 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next order of business.
Next order of business is it's a one item on the O&A special meeting of October 15th.
Councilor LeBlanc.
Thank you. Ordinance and Administration voted unanimously to recommend that the City Council request that the state legislatures file a home rule petition, and based on said petition, that the General Court approved and enact a special act substantially as follows. And I will read everything if it's all right, or I can opt to not read it, the whole thing. It's pretty self-explanatory. We have it in our packet.
I think you can just do the background and the, if you'd like.
I would pass on to Councilor Cox through the chair. This is her
Okay.
order.
Councilor Cox.
The original charter says no more than 2 positions, and they have to be complimentary. This would revise that to say max of 2 without the complimentary portion of it, just a blanket max of 2. So I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
So this is for the appointment of unelected people to boards and commissions?
Correct.
Yep, and this is just to correct something that we all came across kind of together in the charter that just didn't seem to make any sense. But because it's in the charter, it has to be a home rule petition. We can't just change it ourselves.
Correct. The language was too subjective, and we kept having problems with it. So instead of continuing to have problems until we get a charter revision, I went forward with this order.
Thank you for doing that. Any other comments or questions? So this is a roll call vote, Madam Clerk?
Counselor Nolan?
Yes.
Counselor O'Hara?
Yes.
Counselor Cox?
Yes.
Counselor Gilman?
Yes.
Counselor Heck?
Yes.
Counselor Holbrook?
Yes.
Counselor LeBlanc?
Yes.
And Counselor Lumberg.
Yes.
Okay, the city council motion to request state legislatures to file a home rule petition for the subject as specified passes on a vote of 8 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next order of business.
Business is the Planning and Development Standing Committee report of November 6th.
There were no matters for council consideration from this meeting, but I would like to remind the councilors that, and the public, that the site visit for 35 Fuller Street was set by agreement of the committee and the applicant for this Saturday, November 16th at 9 a.m., and will be meeting at the corner of Norman and Fuller Street, rain or shine, 9 o'clock this Saturday morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Next order of business.
Next order of business is public hearing 2019-058, Special City Council Permit 2019-008, Fuller Street, number 35, map 168, lot 14, Gloucester zoning ordinance, section 1.8.3, section 2.3.17, and section 3.2.2.
So I'll open the public hearing, and we will continue it until November 26th. And as Councilor Gilman said, the reason for the continuance is we were going to have a site visit on Saturday at 9 a.m. at the corner of Fuller and Norman, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Next order of business, Madam Clerk.
Is public hearing 2019-059, tax classification in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 5, and Gloucester Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Section 2-26, to determine the percentage of the local tax levy for the fiscal year 2020 to be borne by each class of real and personal property.
Thank you. I'll open the public hearing and ask if anyone wishes to speak in favor of the motion. Well, first we'll invite the city assessor to come up and explain the ground rules for what we're doing. Thank you. Nancy, welcome.
Good evening, Nancy Pappas, Principal Assessor. The fiscal 2020 assessed values and new growth were approved by the Department of Revenue on October 23rd, which enables us to move forward with the tax classification process. As indicated in the letter from the mayor, there's only one action item this evening, and that is adopting a residential factor. The residential factor determines the share of the tax levy that each class of property will bear. It does not change the total tax levy. On page 4, you will see the total value and percentage of each class of property. The residential class makes up 90.58%, and the commercial, industrial, and personal property, 9.42%. The taxable value of the city increased 6.48% from fiscal 19, and based on the sales analysis that was conducted, the residential class as a whole saw an increase of 6%. Properties within the residential class ranged from 2 to 14%, with 2 and 3 families and apartments at the upper end of the range. The commercial and industrial classes saw a 1% increase. Page 5 shows the parcel count and assessed values of each class from 2007 to the present. Page 6 shows the historic shift factors that have been adopted over the years, and it's the underlying factor associated with the shift that is what is being voted on. Page 7 shows the calculation of the maximum allowable levy. It starts with the fiscal 19 levy limit. Added to that is the Prop 2.5 increase and new growth, which results in the fiscal 20 levy limit. Added to that is the CSO debt exclusion and the water debt exclusion. The fiscal 20 maximum allowable levy is then divided by the total value of all parcels and results in a tax rate at a factor of 1 of 12.37. That's down 36 cents from fiscal 19. Factor of 1 results in the same tax rate for all properties, and any factor other than 1 would shift a portion of the levy to a different class. Page 8 shows the approximate tax rates that result from the various shifts to the CIP class. The maximum shift allowed by the state is 1.5. Page 9 shows a comparison of levies by class at various shift factors. The tax rates are approximate and could change slightly once the recap is completed. The column to the far right shows the difference in the levy each class will bring in after the shift. Page 10 shows changes in tax dollars for properties valued at different levels at various shifts. For fiscal 20, the average single-family home is $618,553, and the median is $445,500. So in the column of $500,000 for property value, the residential taxpayer would save $20, while the commercial, industrial, and personal property taxpayer would pay an additional $185. And in that same column at the bottom is the maximum shift that's allowed, which shows a more significant savings to the residential taxpayer of $320 and a more significant increase to the CIP taxpayer of $3,095. The remainder of the packet covers the open space discount, the residential exemption, and the small commercial exemptions, which are not viable options this year. If you have any questions about the exemptions or the rest of the packet, I'll do my best to answer.
Thank you very much. So that was kind of the basic framework of what we're doing. We do this every year, the tax classification in terms of the shifting of some tax from the residential to the business. It is currently at 1.03. The mayor's letter was a suggestion of 1.03 that went to B&F, and the motion has come to the council, which we will get to in a minute, at 1.0. But for purposes of the public hearing, we'll ask if anyone else wishes to speak in favor of the 1.03 from that the administration proposed. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to that? Yes, sir.
Ken Reel, CEO, Cape Ann Chamber of Commerce, 33 Commercial Street. Good evening, President Lundberg and city councilors, and thank you for this public hearing again on such an important topic affecting the future of our great region. I'll begin by saying that the Cape Ann Chamber is the largest business organization on the North Shore, with our 1,000 business members, is in full support of the Budget and Finance Committee's recommendation to eliminate the higher business tax rate. Let me set the stage with a few facts. Gloucester's CIP factor of 1.03 stands as the lowest differential rate in the Commonwealth. Its effect is small, as we just heard, on individual homeowners, about half a tank of gas or $20 for the $500,000 property owner, but is 10 times that for an equivalent business owner. Most Massachusetts communities, 237 out of 351, do not have a higher business tax, including our neighbors of Essex, Manchester, Rockport, Ipswich, and Newburyport. And those neighboring communities that do have a higher CIP rate Beverly, Peabody, Salem, for example, have significantly higher business tax base. The elimination of the tax shift is less about the relatively small financial impact on our residents and corresponding benefit to the business community, and much more about the message it sends to all businesses, especially those that may look to relocate here, that Gloucester is business-friendly and that we are encouraging business growth. With new business comes new jobs, new residents, a broader tax base, and increased tax revenue, enabling the entire community to prosper. Will a CIP rate of 1.03 be the deciding factor in a business's decision to move here? Maybe not. But it is much cleaner and a more impactful message to simply say that we do not have a higher business tax rate. We'll hear from some tonight that removal of the tax factor will not help us attract new business. We disagree. Indeed, we can say with certainty that removal of the factor will give us a strong selling point for encouraging new business to relocate here, and I'll talk about a new and exciting marketing effort shortly. Gloucester's overall economic condition is mixed and continues to be at a critical crossroad. Going into year 4, the excitement of the arrival of the Beauport Hotel may be ebbing, but its impact on our local economy continues to grow. There has been much positive business news since we met here last year, including UMass's substantial investment in the Marine Station and our North Shore Blue Economy Initiative, significant development at Gloucester Crossing and Blackburn Industrial Park, groundbreaking at the Fuller School redevelopment project, and another tenant at the Gloucester Marine Genomics Institute. With all these developments, we cannot become complacent and forget the serious challenges we still face in attracting new businesses to the area. Our island geography alone is a major impediment. We are not a drive-through community. Our water and sewer rates are high, housing is expensive, and our harbor infrastructure is declining and in need of serious, significant investment. As we discuss this small yet very real tax impact, we ask you to consider 3 main points. First and foremost, the city's business base as a share of overall tax base has decreased an alarming 30%, from 15% to just under 9.5% over the past 25 years, with more than 10% of the decline in just the past 6 years. None of our North Shore neighboring cities have our unique legacy as the nation's oldest working harbor, still highly relevant today as Gloucester ranks generally within the top 15 of commercial port seafood landings in the country. However, municipalities just 10 miles away have significantly broader business base. To name just a few, Beverly's at 14%, Salem 16%, Peabody 21%, and Danvers has a whopping 24% commercial industrial tax base. Remember again, we're less than 9.5. Second, Gloucester remains and will always be a fishing community, but our business mix is changing. The visitor-based economy is growing and has led to substantial new investments like the Beauport Hotel, which has in turn added significantly to our tax base. Funds from the local city's options rooms tax have increased by more than 60%, from $500,000 to over $800,000 annually in just the past 3 years, due principally to a single business, the Beauport Hotel. That's more than $300,000 added to the city's tax base. While this growth in our visitor-based sector is helping keep unemployment rates low, many of our new jobs are relatively low-paying and seasonal. Third, in complicating matters, is a projection by the UMass Donahue Institute of substantial population decline, about 15% over the next 20 years. The primary reason for this is straightforward. We are a population dominated by baby boomers. Our demographic challenge, especially attracting young workers and families, is made more difficult by lack of affordable housing. Our housing prices are among the highest of any city on the North Shore, as you heard, with the median Gloucester home price of about $450,000. We are seeing a direct result of this in Gloucester schools, where the population has declined by more than 25% over the past 20 years. On the bright side, Gloucester has so much to offer as an incredibly beautiful and desirable place to live, work, and play. We are encouraged by the very fact that we are here tonight talking about these issues as part of a strong collaborative comprised of the city, the chamber, and our affiliates, local universities, and nonprofits. We are working together to turn these issues into opportunities for growth and regional prosperity, not just by extending our visitor season, but by expanding our core maritime-based businesses and seeking to attract more traditional businesses in service, engineering, and in manufacturing. One particularly exciting collaboration is with the organization and development of the North Shore Blue Economy, led by UMass Amherst here out of the Marine Station. We are working closely with legislators Senator Tarr and Representative Ferrante to develop a similar model as has been recently implemented just 50 miles south of us, called the South Coast Development Partnership. The partnership recently received about $1 million in state and federal grants and is poised to leverage hundreds of millions of dollars in new offshore wind investments and the creation of new blue economy jobs. We on the North Shore have even greater prospects. We must think regionally and strategically to develop a plan that identifies promising new opportunities in the blue economy sector and how we focus on those opportunities to foster new business here. What is most exciting is that Gloucester, as the North Shore's largest port, is at the epicenter of this North Shore initiative. So in conclusion, we are working together. We are making progress in setting Gloucester's economic ship on a new and prosperous course. Tonight, we ask for your help in accelerating the arrival of new business to the city by voting to adopt the Budget and Finance Committee's recommendation to eliminate the CIP tax rate differential. Not only is this a core element of an overall program for encouraging business growth and prosperity for Gloucester, but now at the 1.03 level, this differential represents more of an unnecessary vestige from the past than it does a savings to our residents. As is being demonstrated by the success of the Beauport Hotel, the best way to grow city revenues while decreasing the residential tax burden is to work collaboratively to expand Gloucester's business base. Thank you for your time in carefully considering tax classification parity as an important opportunity for economic growth.
Thank you, Ken.
Can I have a point of order?
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor or opposition or whatever?
Point of order.
Yes?
I believe that the motion that came out of Budget and Finance is a 1.0.
Yes, it is.
And you referenced the 1.03, which is an opinion of someone, and not, like, I don't think the pros and cons need to be based on the 1.03.
No, that's why I just said anyone else who wishes to speak.
I know, but your earlier statement was the 1.03, and that's
That was the mayor's
inaccurate.
that was the mayor's request. Yes,
I
that was not
understand.
inaccurate. That was the mayor's request.
I understand, but I don't think the public hearing should be based on someone's opinion.
Anyone else wishing to speak about the tax classification rate? Please come forward.
Thank you, President Lundberg and city councilors. My name is Carl Gustin. I'm chairman of the Gloucester Economic and Industrial Development Corporation, and my remarks will track Ken Reel's fairly closely. I'll try to be brief. What is being passed around does include just a couple of charts that I will call your attention to. But first of all, we do pride ourselves as a business-friendly community. But there are a lot of challenges. Ken touched on a number of those challenges a few minutes ago that make turning an attitude into results to strengthen the tax base difficult. On the positive side, segments of the blue economy are doing relatively well, and it's a growth area with the UMass Marine Station supported by the Chamber, the EDIC, the city, and the legislative delegation leading the North Shore Blue Economy Initiative. Much has been said and written about GMGI and the vision of a marine biotech hub. Occupancy in the industrial parks is strong and steady. Names like Applied Materials, CB Fisk, and two aerospace companies, Bombco and Berzonics, part of United Technologies, serve international markets. Gorton's, Intershell, F.W. Bryce carry on Gloucester's iconic reputation for quality seafood. Health and hospitality segments are growing, and the dredging of the Annisquam River will further expand the city's attractiveness as a destination for transient vessels whose crews and guests add substantially to the local economy, and the city is seeking funding and a process which we support to update the harbor plan. In the meantime, concerns of employers ranging from transportation to broadband and from power supply to housing are getting renewed attention. I might add that the EDIC has just about completed a study, basically a SWOT analysis of the two existing parks, where we've interviewed, UMass has interviewed property owners and tenants within the industrial parks, and they have identified these as important issues for them as they look out to the future. And certainly housing is a very important issue from their perspective. Unfortunately, the concerns that get raised in these areas have an impact on the economy. This is especially true for transportation and housing. CADA has applied for a grant with strong support from employers, the administration, and this council for a last-mile pilot to address the lack of transportation between rail stations and employer locations. Again, this is an important issue that has surfaced in a number of interviews and conversations with major employers. And the strong support to increase the availability of housing for low and middle income families with projects such as Cameron's and the Fuller property underway. But today, many families are being priced out of Gloucester, which leads them to either travel from communities south, west, and north of the city, or to either leave for lower cost areas or turn down what would seemingly be good jobs. The table that you have in front of you from the 2017 Housing Production Report, page 22, I think is relevant. It shows that just over 10% of the available housing units are in categories of 5 units or more. Single-family homes and projects of 2 to 4 family units account for approximately 87% of the available housing. If you glance at the other communities, you'll see that there's no community that has such a limited inventory, if you will, of housing in categories of 5 units or more. The tax classification factor being considered tonight of 1.03 may not seem like a significant element in a business decision to expand in or relocate to Gloucester. It's just one factor, and probably not a major one, in the site selection process. But for a business property owner, it can add hundreds of dollars a year to what in many cases are very tight margins. It may not be decisive, but it adds to wage pressures, the impact of tariffs on some companies, stiff competition for talent, and being located in a land-constrained community. For some perspective, owners of 250,000 homes see savings from classification equal to about 4 cups of coffee at Dunkin's. For the owners of $1 million homes, it saves about $40. A December 2004 tax classification report prepared by the Department of Revenue offers some perspective that may be of interest. On page 4 of that report, DOR wrote, quote, "We found that there is little justification for classification other than the politically expedient outcome of keeping the residential tax burden low." It went on to write, "Though not the primary factor when businesses make locational decisions, higher CIP taxes also serve as an impediment to attracting and retaining businesses in certain communities." On page 10, DOR wrote, "Generally, communities with CP values of at least 10% of total value are the ones that seriously consider shifting the tax burden. Only 10 of the 148 communities with CIP values less than 10%, such as Gloucester, shifted to the CIP class in 2004. Unfortunately, the relative value of commercial, industrial, and personal properties in Gloucester is low, even compared to the statewide average, which ultimately places added revenue pressure on the residential sector. Altering the tax factor doesn't change that, although it might mask it. You have several charts in front of you just to show the relative, or to show a comparison between Gloucester and other communities. First one, if you look at Gloucester at 13%, at less than 10%, and you look at all municipals in Massachusetts, you'll see it's about 18%. If you look at Salem and Beverly, you'll see Salem at 16% and Beverly at 13%. And then if you look at Danvers and Peabody, you'll see 25% and 21%, again against Gloucester at less than 10%. Gloucester has constraints that limit its ability to compete with a Peabody or a Danvers to create CIP value. Excuse me. However, economic development and housing initiatives are underway to benefit residents, employers, employees, and visitors. In the meantime, we seem to be doing fine on the high end of housing. Zillow reports that 26 units over $1 million have sold in the last 24 months. But we lag in construction of units available to lower and middle income families, which isn't helped by classification, and I'd point back to the original chart. A growing economic base providing more and better jobs, along with incentives, zoning, and more timely decision-making to encourage more lower-priced single-family and multifamily units will help. For these reasons, the Gloucester EDIC Board of Directors joins with the Chamber of Commerce in opposing the 1.03 tax classification factor and urges the Council to adopt a factor of 1 for all classifications. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Carl. Yes, just so to address the point of order, so I guess it's opposed or in favor. Let's just speak to what, if anybody wishes to speak in favor or opposed to whatever you'd like to say about the tax classification, come forward and say it.
Good evening, City Councilors and everyone in attendance. My name is Caitlin Pizzeni of 30 Dodge Street here in Gloucester, and I've lived here for about 10 years with my husband who grew up here. Speaking on behalf of myself and my husband, Nick Pizzeni, we own Cape Ann Lanes and have worked very hard to bring this community staple of Cape Ann Lanes back to life. It's hard work, but we love it, and we love being part of our community. We're glad to see this proposal come before the council again. A decrease in the commercial tax rate is about being more business friendly. These rates may not affect large corporations like those at Gloucester Crossing, but they may attract other ones, as mentioned for any of the biotech or any of those kind of companies. That may be a factor. But they certainly have a huge impact on small businesses like ours. We live in Gloucester and we work in Gloucester. It's not uncommon for us to work 80-plus hour weeks. I did it this past week. I'm on hour 105 right now in the last 9 days, or last 7 days maybe. And we do this just to keep our businesses running. So we put our heart and soul into this. Some in attendance, I'm sure, believe that businesses should pay a higher tax rate than residents, and I understand where they're coming from. But I would like to remind you and all of them that many of us business owners are residents as well. I'd also like you to consider that even if the new rates are approved and become equal, which we are in favor of, there are many other payments that businesses are required to make to the city. Last year, in addition to the more than $10,000 in property taxes our business Cape Ann Lanes paid, the following to the city of Gloucester, and this is just to keep our doors open and just to the city. $100 for a dumpster permit, $75 for common victualler, $100 fats, oils, and grease permit, $100 bowling lanes permit, which we're the only one in the city that has to pay, obviously, $150 occupancy permit and inspections, $200 food service establishment license, $800 plus in personal property taxes, $1,500 liquor license, $2,400 in an arcade permit, which is still our highest permit, $3,050 in building permit fees as we just renovated. And that's a total of more than $18,500 in checks that we wrote to the city, to the city of Gloucester, just to keep our doors open and the business legal in the eyes of the city, which we follow all the rules and regulations to make sure we are. Businesses contribute more to Gloucester and the economy than property taxes alone. We also provide jobs for people in the city. We employ people and we pay them as well as we can and try to make sure we take care of them. Not only am I a business owner, but I'm also the co-chair of Next Generation Cape Ann, which is a young professionals networking group with over 200 members here in the Cape Ann area. Most of the members are from Gloucester. As part of this group, we are always discussing how we can attract new young blood to Gloucester, because attracting young families and potential business owners would have a positive impact on every segment of our city. To do so, we need to be attractive and we need to be seen as a perception-based thing as business-friendly in this city. In terms of the tax classification, making it equal would be a great start. There is no place we would rather work, live, and play than Gloucester. And I hope the council will adopt the Budget and Finance Committee's recommendation, along with any other initiatives to promote a more business-friendly community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caitlin. Anyone else wish to comment on the tax classification, be it 1.0 or 1.03 or anything in between? Go ahead. Name and address, please.
Gerald Oppenheim, 57 Middle Street. I sit on the EDIC board with Carl, whom you just heard from. My seat is as a representative of low-income interests. From that perspective, I cannot support a measure that would shift additional property tax burden to residential owners. Good public policy demands striking a reasonable balance between the interests of our low-income residents and our businesses. Rather, we need to acknowledge that our businesses depend on increasing the volume of affordable worker housing in Gloucester. Indeed, affordable housing is a prime concern for the EDIC, while the property tax burden is a relatively low-level concern for business. We are working hard to promote improved employment, wages, affordable housing, and economic development, all of which are key. It seems to me that the heat around the tax factor is a distraction from developing balanced policies in those areas that we're concerned about. Comparisons with tax factors in communities that we feel competitive with underscores the point. These are 2019 numbers. Beverly, 1.9, Danvers, 1.6, Peabody, 2.5, Salem, 1.96, Gloucester, as you know, 1.03. The lowering of Gloucester's tax factor that has already occurred does not seem to have much of the desired impact. Here at Gloucester, data 2003 through 2019, 16 years. The tax factor went from 1.29 to 1.03, down 20%. The CIP levy, as a percentage of total, CIP is commercial, industrial, and personal property, went from 12.45% to 10.02%, also down 20%. The CIP valuation, where we hope to get additional investment, again as a percentage, 9.9% to 9.7% in 16 years, essentially flat. Thus, Gloucester has shifted 20% of its property tax levy in the last 16 years, but the CIP value ratio is essentially unchanged. It must be true, then, that economic development depends on other factors. The amounts of money involved today may be small, but they are symbolic. I submit that we should be debating balanced policy alternatives to foster improvement in employment, wages, affordable housing, and economic development in Gloucester, not changing tax rates that do little or nothing to address these concerns while creating a perception that is anti-residential. I thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to comment on the tax factor? Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Mr. President, councilors. I'm Dan Ottenheimer. I own a house and live at 79 Western Avenue, and I own a business and a building at 6 Sargent Street in Gloucester. So on a personal level, this discussion impacts me, on both fronts. I'm here to suggest that I believe the appropriate action here is to increase the tax burden on business. I believe there are a good 30 or 40 years worth of state and federal policies that are been targeted towards the lower and middle class in our society at large, nothing that the Gloucester City Council has done. And as a result, we see a significantly shrinking middle class in our society. And I don't think that's healthy for our future as a country, and it's not healthy for our future as the city of Gloucester. Very recent example of that is the USDA over the last couple of years has twice cut food stamps, for example, and they're talking about cutting them again a third time. As we see a shrinking middle class and a shrinking or a more challenged lower class, we also have corporations like my business that starting in 2018 were provided with a 20% tax break. And as a result, I believe it's appropriate for this council, as well as other actions that should happen in the state and federal level, to take initiatives to provide some balance so that we can have a more stable society with a healthier middle class, which is really what made this country the great nation that it is. So I believe you're in a position to have businesses be able to afford an increased tax burden and relief, and provide some relief to the middle class here in Gloucester. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to comment on the tax classification rate? Yes, sir. Welcome, Bob. Name and address for the record, please.
Robert Gillis, 31 Saywood Street. First, I just want to say thank you all for your service as city councilors. We're very fortunate to have you. I just want to say that I'm up here every year, so you pretty much know what my spiel is. I think it should be a 1.0, no differential as far as the residential and the commercial. I have a lot of respect for Dan Ottenheimer and his business. He does great things in the city, and we've had a little bit of a discussion. We don't agree, but I just feel as though shifting to business or residential, we've got one pie here, and the pie is 100%. 90+% of that pie is residential, less than 10% is business. And residential property owners are minimally affected. I don't see residential property owners here other than Dan that speak in favor of widening the differential. There are, let's face it, the businesses that we have in town that own property, they're friends, they're relatives, they're neighbors, just like we are. I just don't understand, never have, the fairness of charging different property rates for business and residential. I don't get that. I'm sitting next to Laura Dow, who is the owner of Vista Motel in Gloucester. It's a great business. They do a great job, and I think they're profitable. But it's not an easy business that they're in. In addition to competing with other inns and motels and hotels, Laura has to compete with Airbnb and VRBO, things like that, as you all know, something that you're grappling with. So I think it's just a fundamental area of fairness. It's just about fairness, that's all. Businesses pay plenty of taxes, whether it's a 1% differential or no differential. They pay a lot of taxes, and it's just not fair that there should be a differential, that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. Anyone else wishing to speak on this matter? Okay, Madam Clerk, are there any communications?
There are none.
Any councilor questions as to the technicalities? Yes, Councilor Cox?
Nancy, I'm not sure, Nancy, John, Jim, who's going to answer this one? We'll start with you, Nancy. Sorry.
I can get to the podium.
All right. There is a potential override coming, a vote for an override. Debt exclusion, sorry. How is that going to affect the tax base or the taxes? Is that going to hit residential and commercial equally?
If it is a debt exclusion, it's very similar to the CSO or water debt exclusion. It's going to be added to that levy limit, and it's going to be paid by all property taxpayers. The amount of which and the impact, I'm not sure. That would be more of a question for John or Jim.
Okay. Thank you for that. We're good. I guess my next question would be to John or Jim in regards to when we have the vote and when that would become in effect. Is it going to be a factor for this year's tax rate that we're discussing? Thank you, Nancy.
No.
That was easy.
Anything else? No. So basically, if it is an exclusion, which is an override, it's really not going to come on or go into the tax levy until we actually incur debt service associated with that. So early on in the school construction process, we'll be borrowing money, presuming that the project goes forward. That money will be borrowed, and presumably it's going to be short-term, because that's generally how we do things, so we borrow on a short-term basis. So there's no principal repayment during that time. It's just interest on what we call bond anticipation notes, which in the current market is running about 1.2, 1.5% a year. So relatively modest, although on a big amount of money. So it's really, you're not going to really get pushed in terms of an impact on the levy until we get to the point where we really begin repaying principal. And that's going to probably be maybe 3 years after groundbreaking. So it's some ways away.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other questions from councilors? And I will close the public hearing.
Hold on.
Yep. Oh, Ken.
Counselor.
Nancy, I had one question for you, and it's an approximate thing. Maybe it's in your book, I don't know. But over the last decade, the assessed value of residential has gone up what percent versus the assessed value of commercial going up what percent? Is that something that's easy for you to figure out, or is that too much? In other words, residential's gone up a whole lot faster than commercial.
That's not something where I could necessarily tally. Residential as a whole is a more volatile market. It's emotional, buying a home. Commercial industrial are typically more stable. They're based on investor expectations and economic decisions. In an increasing market, you're always going to see residential increasing at a higher percentage, a faster rate. And if values start decreasing, you're going to see the same. You're going to see a more significant decrease on the residential side than you're going to see on the commercial side. It's going to maintain more stability overall.
Thank you.
Any other councilor questions? And then I will close the public hearing and call for the committee report. Councilor Cox.
Budget and Finance voted 2 in favor, 1 opposed, to recommend that the City Council adopt a residential tax classification factor of 1.0 for fiscal year 2020, and I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. So we have a main motion on the table. Do you want to give us your narrative on the 1.0?
No, I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make an amend. I'd like to amend the motion. I'd like to amend the motion to have the tax classification to a 1.03 for the fiscal year of 2020.
So the main motion is moved to 1.03 for an amendment. Moved and seconded. Yes, Councilor LeBlanc.
So my thought process on this is we've heard from business owners, we've heard from a business residential owner about bringing businesses in and having a level tax base. So the tax levy has been was 1.06 for about 11 or 12 years. So, you know, there was some consistency there. Businesses came in, they knew that it was going to be voted status quo, so they could prepare to open their business, same thing as residents. So over the past few years, it's shifted, you know, almost to even. We've gone back to 1.3. Now we're talking about going to keeping it even again. So that's kind of unstable, I think, for residents and businesses looking to come into our city. So I'm going to vote to keep it at 1.03, the same as last year. So we have a little bit of consistency here. So in the future, people can see what we've kind of done here and not kind of gone up and down with our tax levy over the past couple of years. So that's my thought process on keeping it at status quo.
Thank you. So we have the main motion at 1.0. We have an amendment for 1.03, and that amendment has been seconded. Any other comments on 1.03, the amendment? Councilor Holmgren.
I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. This is always a very difficult decision, and I appreciate the opinions on both sides of the issue, which are extremely valid. Personally, as a counselor and as a resident, I advocate for things like mixed-use development and business development whenever I can. I'm also advocating for more affordable housing, the outcome of which would hopefully affect lower income density for the better. And it might help people who are overhoused for whatever reason who would struggle with any increase in their taxes. So as I said last year, shifting the levy limit may not feel like much for those of us who can afford it, but for those who are struggling with living on fixed incomes in family homes for whatever reason, and there are probably many, I have to support the 1.03% amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments on the amendment? Councilor Gilman and then Councilor Hecht.
So I'm going to support the amendment. Probably withhold my discussion until we get to that point, but the things that I will bring up include the debt exclusion override and also the cost of private road repair and betterments for the majority of the 40% of folks that live on private roads, mostly people in my ward. But I will hold that until we agree to the amendment.
Good.
But I do support the amendment. Thank you.
Any other councilor comments on the amendment? Councilor Hecht?
I prefer to think of this in dollars and cents rather than ratios and percentages. On a business perspective, we compete with PB Danvers. We're up the line. You've got to drive another half hour to get here. And distribution's an hour round trip. So we're competing, we're adversely competing with them. However, on a tax basis where their tax might be $1 a foot, ours might be 55 cents. I mean, those are the real numbers. So it's a real discount. We offer a real dollar discount, and we have that attractiveness of that business party coming here. On the other hand, being the Ward 2 City Councilor, the residential prices have skyrocketed over time. The commercial properties are really relatively stable, but the residential properties have gone crazy. So I'm thinking about the Ward 2 two-family, the Ward 2 single-family. Even though, you know, the 1.03 to 1.0 is really truly symbolic, but what's happening is the residential property owners are paying more and more dollars every year. If you want to say dollars per foot, dollars per unit, dollars per whatever, they're paying more and more. And I'm thinking about the people in Ward 2, in my ward, that are really struggling. So I see us I don't see us at a business disadvantage. I see us at a business advantage of attracting business because our dollars per foot are low to the business party who might come here. And yet I see our residences, at least in my ward, struggling to maintain their homes. So I'm going to support the 1.03. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors? I also will support the amendment to 1.03. I think that one of the things that we deal with in our community that is unique among our peer communities is that we are on the ocean. Our residential property taxes are, luckily, the values are going up all the time, and that impacts our property, our residential property tax owners disproportionate to our neighboring towns. And I think that we have a lot of other tax burdens for our residents, and yes, it's largely symbolic in terms of the dollar amount, but I think that that symbolism is important, and I would like to keep, and I've always been in favor of the differential since I've been on the council, and so I will vote for the amendment. So we're entertaining the amendment. Any other comments about that? Councilor O'Hara.
Thank you. This was a question that was asked during the at-large forums that we just recently completed. And it's been an ongoing problem. To Councilor Hecht's point, the reason why our price per square foot is so low is because the demand is not there, partially because of other issues 128 is an absolute nightmare now. Those of us who haven't driven it, try driving it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon in either direction. It's wall-to-wall cars. From Brimble Ave in Beverly to the Cloverleaf at 93, wall-to-wall. Now, all that is being passed on to businesses that have to do anything. That includes one of our largest employers, Gorton's. Everything's transported in, processed, transported back out. We have to lead the charge by showing that we are business friendly. As has been said, we have 92% residential, the other being businesses. If you go down to the Rotary every morning, you see the exodus of cars all heading south. Now, if we were to be able, first we need to secure all businesses. We lost Whole Foods last year. Major business in the city. They're not the only one who has moved on. So we have to be business friendly. We have to show that we are open for business. If we can just maintain our business and potentially bring in one business, that business dollar will more than likely stay on Cape Ann. The people who leave Gloucester every morning spend that money that they're making in Beverly, Salem, Danvers, Peabody, up to the Boston area. When they come back, they're stopping at Liberty Tree Mall, they're stopping at getting gas along Route 1 or someplace else where it's 30 to 40 cents cheaper per gallon. If they work here, that dollar's more than likely, again, going to be spent here. So we as a city, and I've been an advocate of this this is the 4th year, that we need to be very business friendly and open up to show the Wall Street Journal that we are business friendly. I'll support the 1.10, not the 1.03, but I look to lower it below that. Again, you know, to the residential business, to the residential people, we need to look at cable television that is being slammed by everybody in the city, and we never talk about that. But this is such a small, we need to bring business, we need to maintain business, and bring more businesses into our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors on the motion to amend? So we'll take a vote on that. We'll have a roll call vote. This is a motion to amend the original motion to a tax classification of 1.03.
Councilor Nolan? Yes. Councilor O'Hara?
No.
Councilor Cox?
No.
Councilor Gilman?
Yes.
Councilor Hecht?
Yes.
Councilor Holgram?
Yes.
Councilor LeBlanc? Yes. And Councilor Lundberg?
Yes.
So the motion to adopt a residential tax classification factor of 1.03 for fiscal year 2020 passes on a vote.
No, we've amended the main
just the
motion.
amendment. Okay.
So
and
now the main
passes.
motion has been
Okay.
amended to 1.03.
Okay.
Councilor Gilman?
Now, I'm eager to talk on this new motion.
Oh, boy.
So, we, during the election time in particular, I went to almost all of the debates. There's so much conversation out there. And although I am sympathetic about businesses, if you look at just some of the numbers we're looking at right now, a single-family median value is up 5.3%, and that includes 7,000 units. A two-family, similar, whereas the commercial industrial buildings of 317 is up 0.9%. And folks that have million-dollar homes and above, they get excited when their property value goes up because they think, my house is worth more. When people are not in that economic situation and their property goes up, they see their taxes going up and they're not able to age in place. And so many of the people that I talk to in my ward are struggling with living in Gloucester. We're strapped with the sewerage, the water, the taxes, the betterments. Now we're throwing out the issue, private road repairs. We all had our sewers done in Ward 4 20 to 25 years ago, and the lifespan for a paved road on a private road right now is about 20 years. So folks that are just still paying their betterments for sewerage are being told that, the way, the law states and our ordinance states that people are responsible for private road repairs. And they're seeking our betterment policy, which is an excellent way to deal with it, but that's a new tax. It's taxed onto people's quarterly bills. My biggest fear right now, that I think the timing is important. I understand, Council Cox, your comments about wondering when it takes into effect, but the issue right now is we're going to be asking the citizens of Gloucester in this next year, in a special election or a normal election in September, whatever the timing is, we're going to be asking them to consider a debt exclusion override for a new school. And when we do the formula of a debt exclusion override, if a school is going to cost about $45 to $50 million, because a big portion will be paid for by MSBA, but if you own a house that's $500,000, it's about $12.50 a month for 25 years, because it works like a mortgage. A debt exclusion override ends. $12.50 a month. People are saying that they're overtaxed and they're worried about supporting that. And when we think of businesses coming into the community, new schools is a major attraction to businesses. And we have an opportunity. We're in the queue right now for MSBA. Only 11% of the last group of people that wanted to get in the queue got accepted. So if we're not able to get this right now, it's going to take us 3 to 4 more years to go back to the drawing board. This is a time we're going to need to garner all the support from our residents right now. So because of that, I feel very strongly that we need to hold firm right now. Sure, it's only $20 less to stay if you own a $500,000 house right now, if we keep it at 1.03, but it's symbolic. I think people need to know that we understand that 91% of the folks in our community are residential. For those of us who are in the ward, we hear all the time from our people. So I know I talk longer than my time, but I'm passionate about this, and I really think I ask councilors to please consider 1.03. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. So we have the main motion before us that has been amended to 1.03. Anybody else want to make any comments? Councilor Cox?
So on a $500,000 house, the shift to savings to a resident is $20, but a business, it goes up $184. I will likely spend more in my savings due to the fact that I'm pushing a business, I'm giving a business a reason to increase their fees, to increase their bottom line to cover this increase. So in that case, it is likely that I will end up paying more than the $20 that I'm saving because of an increase in their taxes. So that's my opinion. Everybody's entitled to their own, but I don't think that tax shift is necessary. I am a resident. I am not a business owner. So, I mean, looking at it from a level playing field, I don't think that I want to give them any more excuse than they already have to increase their costs that I'm going to end up paying, and this is one of those excuses. As a resident, I don't want to pay any more taxes. As a city councilor, I know damn well that every single person that pays taxes, business or residential, doesn't pay enough to cover all of the services that every resident thinks they deserve. or that they do deserve. We just don't. We don't cover everything. The city pays a giant portion of our trash bill compared to what the resident pays. And still, people are complaining that the $2.25 for a purple trash bag is too much. I don't think we're ever going to get out of that cycle. It's just a matter of people don't like paying the government. So it's really a no-win situation here. Someone's going to lose, and we're all entitled to our own opinion and how we want to vote on it. But I think if we were to use our influence to educate instead of pander, then I think we could get a lot further.
Thank you. Any other council comments? So we have the amended main motion of adopting a residential tax classification factor of 1.03. And will you call the roll, Madam Clerk?
Councilor Nolan? Yes. Councilor O'Hara?
No.
Councilor Cox?
No.
Councilor Gilman?
Yes.
Councilor Hecht?
Yes.
Councilor Holgram?
Yes.
Councilor Blank? Yes. Councilor Lundberg?
Yes.
Okay, the motion to adopt a residential tax classification factor of 1.03 for fiscal year 2020 passes on a vote of 7 in favor, 2 opposed, and 1 absent. Oh, 6, I'm sorry.
Thank you very much.
6, sorry.
So Kenny asked that we sign his document here while we're on to our next bit of business, so he's going to put it on the table, and we're going to sign it and just pass it on. Madam Clerk, next order of business. Sorry, Madam Clerk.
Next order of business is public hearing 2019-60, loan authorization to amend loan order 2018-007 to $2,500,000 for the improvements to the Harbor Master facilities.
So I'll open the public hearing and ask if anyone wishes to speak in favor. Mr. Dunn?
Thank you, and good evening. I can't say that I'm necessarily pleased to be here because I am coming before you to ask you to vote an increase in the loan order for the renovation of the Harbor Master building. This unfortunately is a project that got a little bit, I would not say it got out of control. The scope has been pretty well contained. We did have nice results on the bid process. We had half a dozen responders. Unfortunately, as has happened in a couple of other projects, similarly in the recent past, it came in at more than we expected it to be. So 2 things happened there. The construction cost was a little bit more than we expected in the base bid. There was an alternate bid, which is really what we needed to have done on the 2nd floor of the building, which is going to be the Harbor Master's offices. And because of the amount that the bid came in at, it also triggered the need by state law to have an owner's project manager. So a couple of things happened here. The alternate one was about $200,000. The triggering of the owner's project manager need by state law is about $150,000, and we have a contingency of about $140,000. So that really drove us to the point now where, in order to do this project completely and to do it right, we figure that we're going to need a budget of $2.5 million to do this. Again, we're concerned that if we don't do the proper renovations and complete the renovations now, then we could have some trouble in the future. We've seen a couple of instances of this in the past where we've shorted projects in terms of overall dollars expended, and we've had to go back and do and finish those projects 10 years later. We don't want to do that again. So we would request your support for this increase. Again, I'm sorry that we have to do this, but that is where the bids came in. Again, we had half a dozen bids, so this is a very competitive process. It's just where the construction market is right now. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to, oh, Tony. Name and address for the record, please.
Tony Gross, 18 Nashua Ave. You all know I'm chairman of the Waterways Board. We've worked for a long time to bring this building to fruition. We invested, well, the city's portion of it was about $350,000, but we put $1.2 million already into the waterfront section of this city, so of the harbor, to enhance our ability to, as a gateway into the city for people coming by water, which would help, you know, the more boats we can get coming here, the more access we have and the quicker we can get to Gloucester. And we're also looking into, as we've ticked off our priorities with the new harbor master, we have gotten to the stage now where we're looking into the reorganization of our mooring fields, which will then allow us to expand our visiting moorings to allow more visitors to come and spend the night and spend money in Gloucester. Our launch service has been wildly successful and always busy, from when it was, you know, in the original days, the loneliest job in town, to now where it's just nonstop all summer. It's been a great success to the point where we may even have to look into buying a second one just to, if we break down, you know, you don't want to be out of the transportation business that is so vital to us. I'm on the building committee. We kept going to the architects and telling them to keep working towards the most economical way to do this. We didn't need a Rolls Royce. We needed a Chevy, but we needed something that's functional and will work very well for us. I've been asked a few times, and it was also in the paper, that there was a dozen bathrooms. I have no idea where that came from. This will bring Gloucester to have 2 public bathrooms downtown, dedicated strictly to the public. Then there'll also be 2 visitors, the handicap bathroom for staff downstairs, as well as an existing bathroom that is upstairs that the plumbing is already in place, and when the renovation happens, it will stay in the exact same place. This is also a multi-use building. We have Discover Gloucester is in that building, as well as Shellfish. So we've expanded the use of the building, which brings more economic savings to the city by expanding that use. Discover Gloucester has really, since being in that building last year, has really done a lot to promote the city. I understand that this was completely unexpected for this bid to come in this high, but as we've seen with every other project, the dredging was, you know, we had to go get some funding for that. We are asking for a little bit more help from the Seaport Advisory Council. We'll see what that happens. Seaport Economic Council, we'll see what happens with that. And it is what it is, but I think it's really a very important piece for Gloucester to capture the multi-billion-dollar industry that has been going by us. We've risen in the ranks of, you know, from do not visit to #1 port to visit. So this is the piece that's missing. Every other, really, if we're going to be a first class in the oldest seaport, this is something we need. So I'd like you to consider moving forward with it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Tony. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Yes, name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. Patty Page, 3 Tidal Cove Way. This is just a different view, a different vision. The vision for investment in a waterfront public facility I have is a little bit different. Who does the project serve, and who should it serve more broadly? This project does not consider community character. It falls rather short there. This is a downtown neighborhood. This should be about neighborhood character. More importantly, this is a public access project. Why is the scope of the project narrow? A visiting boater center. Visitors only. Why is it framed that way? Who does that invite? Who does that exclude? Why is the sole focus tourism and not inclusive for community use? The project should be inclusive. Not all for them and none for us. A broader way to look at it is a dual-purpose facility, a community boating center with amenities to welcome visiting boaters. This would serve residents and expand the use into the shoulder seasons to more fully utilize the space. A dual-purpose facility that serves resident boaters, boating needs, and visiting boaters alike is a far more valuable asset to a community. I support a welcoming port for transient boaters. The scope of the project is narrow. It's $2.5 million requested for renovations in this investment. The total cost includes the 30-year lease, which over the 30 years is approximately $2.5 million. That does not include real estate taxes, utilities, and insurance. So for a round number, add $500,000 over 30 years for those costs. You've now come up to $5.5 million over 30 years. You have a $1 million grant. That's $4.5 million from the city. That's $150,000 per year on average. What do we get for that money? My vision for the investment would be a boating center that serves the community. The outer wards, you just saw it. They have Magnolia Pier, Lanes Cove, the Rocky Neck Center. Where's the center for the downtown wards? Magnolia Pier is now a city-subsidized project, a wonderful project for that portion of the city in that village. You heard the mayor say, this is for all of us. Does this project in front of you tonight include all of us? The harbor master and his staff are an exemplary crew, very capable to lead the port, and the city does need a state-of-the-art headquarters to support their mission. Workshops, laundry, kitchen area, all support their mission. Please do not fall for the shallow representation to your questions, can the public use this? The response is, there are bathrooms. There's a community room. If the center truly provided public access, there would be no need to designate public bathrooms. What about the rest of the building? What is important to note on the floor plan that was included in your council package are the areas that are highlighted 2 public bathrooms. This is the only true public space in the building. The remaining portions will be locked and remain private. Do we really need 7 toilets in one building? There are 6 on the first floor, 1 on the second floor for the harbor master. 1 bathroom is dedicated to shellfish wardens that spend a great deal of their time out in the field. 6 bathrooms on the first floor, 6 toilets. It's down from 11. The most important uses at the point where the water meets the land is the transfer from land to sea and vice versa. Examples are people coming and going to sea, transfer of goods, ocean harvesting, and offloading. The coast is the only place where this can happen, particularly in the harbor. Gloucester has 26 miles of coastline, but due to the lack of protection, there is very little area where you can locate such uses. Therefore, it makes this small protected harbor that much more valuable. Uses such as conference rooms, waiting areas, administrative tourist offices, all of which are vacant most of the time, function perfectly well away from the coast. The conference room is larger than the boater lounge. In light of the announcement that the Chamber of Commerce will be located 100 feet down the street and a part-time administrative tourism office is located on the water, where is our master planning for that? There are currently 4 community boating programs running. You have International Dory Rowers, you have the Gloucester High School Sailing Team, Cape Ann Community Boating, and the Sea Scouts. Were any of these organizations consulted, considered, shown any preference in this project? My vision would be of a bustling community center where children and adults of the community have the opportunity to go from land to sea, sailing and rowing. Also a place where visiting boaters are greeted and welcomed into the port. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor or in opposition? Are there any communications, Madam Clerk?
There are none.
Any councilor questions as to the technicalities of the proposal? Councilor Gilman?
With your permission, I'd like to ask Tony Gross to come up. I have a question for
Tony?
him. Thank you, Tony. So I have a question on the use. Last year, I went to one of the Sail GHS races, and we were allowed to bring our boat up. We docked. We brought our dog up. We gave cookies and whatever to the teams, and we were welcomed with open arms to use the new dock and everything else. So my question to you is, how do you define a visitor? And are folks that live in Gloucester that have boats as welcome as someone from Manchester that comes out and wants to just take advantage of the great location and an opportunity to use the bathrooms and relieve your dog?
There's no residency requirement for, and as you pointed out, the dock is a major advantage for the citizens of Gloucester who live on other parts of the island. West Gloucester, up North Gloucester, Magnolia, East Gloucester, to go downtown and tie up and go have lunch. It's been something that has been a huge problem for all of us who have been boating for a long time, that we haven't had that, and that's available to us. As far as the center, most residents don't need to go there to take a shower. They're more than happy to take it in their own home. But there is no residency requirement to use this at all. You would come in as a visiting boater and be welcomed as you were. So there's no exclusion at all.
So if the Sail GHS kids needed to relieve themselves, and they could come up to the dock and they could go in, use the bathrooms and whatever?
Yes, the public bathrooms are there, but, if there was an overflow, I'm sure that they would be allowed in to use those. I don't think that there would be a problem, but, that's not their purpose. We're getting the money, over $1 million, or $1 million to date, from the Seaport Economic Council for the other purpose. So, but we do have those other bathrooms. And if something happened and they needed to rinse off, as well, common sense has ruled down there now. We're no longer stuck, wondering how to do things. You do things that are right, and that's how I'm sure that it would be handled.
My final question, I'm not supposed to ask more than one question. Is that okay? Thank you. Do I?
Go
Okay.
ahead.
I'm not calling it a follow-up question, I'm sorry. So let's pretend that a community boating group wanted to do a training session. Would you allow them to use the community room to do the training session on safe boating or whatever?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It would have to be coordinated, of course. And there's, of course, the security issues of locking up and, but absolutely, that's what it's about. That's what community room is about, for sure. Yeah, I mean.
Thank you very much. You answered my questions.
Councilor LeBlanc?
Thank you. I was going to ask about the community room, too. So the community room would be open to all residents, if asked?
Yeah,
Not just boaters, like...
No, it's a community room.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Don't forget that we have, October to April.
Yes.
That.
So this facility would be open to resident boaters, transient boaters, and local residents that would like to walk in, check out the facility, visit the harbor master's office.
There would be a certain security issue because people are in there with their possessions and showering and things.
Oh, yeah,
So
I
you can't have the public just coming and going, but
Right.
It would be.
But there's no restriction for residents to
No.
come in, talk to the harbor master.
No,
use part
not
of
at all.
Okay.
It's a public, it's public access. It's a public building.
Other councilor questions? Okay, then sorry. Councilor O'Hara?
I have a question. I think this would be for Mr. Destino. Thanks, Tony. Thank you. Could you expand on Discover Gloucester, how they're in the building?
Right.
How much space do they occupy? How did they have a lease? Was it put to bid?
No,
What's the
right now,
process?
that's a temporary situation. They're using one small little office over there. Whether they stay after the build-out, they've had other discussions, whether it be the new chamber office or somewhere else. They're looking at alternate space. We needed some space over Pond Road where they were to build out one of the offices over there. And so we temporarily put them over because it seemed like we had reasonable space over there. We put them over there for the time being, but it's a temporary situation. If they do end up signing up long-term down there, which wouldn't be a bad idea, I mean, it's still, it's a space where people are coming and going, and we can get some exposure. We'll talk about a lease if that is but at the time being, it was just temporary.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other councilor questions? We'll close the public hearing and call for the committee report. Councilor Cox?
I have it here somewhere. Budget and Finance Committee voted unanimously to recommend the City Council approve the following loan authorization as follows. Ordered that the loan order 2018-007, certificate of vote 2018-129 of this council approved July 24, 2018, authorizing the borrowing of $1,600,000 to pay costs of improvements to the Gloucester Harbor Master facilities and establish a visitor boater center, including costs incidental or related thereto. It's amended in its entirety to provide as follows. Ordered that the City of Gloucester appropriates $2,500,000 to pay costs of improvements to the Gloucester Harbor Master facilities and establish a visiting boater center, including costs incidental or related thereto, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. Do you have a commentary?
Not really.
Okay.
Kind of
We've
just heard it.
pretty much heard everything we need to hear. So any other councilor comments? Councilor Gilman?
I know the price has increased. I think it's really important for our community. A lot of my questions were answered. I think that it's a major way that people can get to shore and talk to the harbor master and just feel part of the community, whether you live here or whether you're visiting. So I will be supporting this, and I can't say enough good things, as Patty Page said, about the professionalism of our harbor master and his entire team and the Waterways Board. And I know that they worked hard on this, and I will be supporting it, including Councilor LeBlanc, who serves on that committee as an ex officio. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Holmgren?
I just want to echo my support. This has taken a long time to come to fruition, and I want to thank all of the members of the team that worked very hard to put this together, the Waterways Board, the Harbor Master, the administration. I am very happy to support this.
Thank you. Councilor LeBlanc?
Thank you. I think we should call it Gloucester Community Boating Center instead of a visiting boating center. But anyway, I'm going to support this evening. Years ago, Gloucester's water sheet was overlooked by visiting boaters. It was a pain in the neck to get into. There wasn't enough space. There was poor communications with the harbor master's office. There was a bunch of things that we were a drive past, so people weren't coming. Now that with the revamped harbor master's office and the revamped Waterways Board, we're a destination, which makes it nice. So not only for transient boaters, but also Gloucester residents. They have more access to the downtown, downtown area where in past it was, 15 minutes, a half-hour tie-up, and that basically didn't really get you anything. So with this moving forward, I think this is a great step. It'll be a jewel in our harbor, so I'm looking forward to seeing what the Harbor Master and the Waterways Board can do in the future to bring in more boaters, residential and visitor transients. So I'm definitely supporting this evening for the Gloucester Community Boating Center.
Thank you, Councilor. Anybody else for this subject? Councilor Hecht and Councilor O'Hara.
I'm going to support this. I'm very excited. Your whole team. It's great for downtown. It's great for tourism. Visitor boating's up. It's really going to continue to put us on the map. I always, and BNF, I always have heartburn about the cost. This building is just shy of 5,000 square feet, and it's $2.5 million, so it's $500 a foot to rehab a building. I can take some solace in the fact that we're getting a $1 million grant, so that's about $200 a foot, and we're only going to be paying about $300 a foot of our own money to rehab the building. So, but that, I'm always choking on these kinds of numbers. But in the end, I think it has a lot to do with the way we do business and as a government, and I have to get used to it. So I'm in full support of this, and I'll be voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor O'Hara.
Thank you. This would tie into us being business-friendly. The tourism in Gloucester is huge, restaurants. A lot of people benefit from boaters coming into Gloucester. We have to also thank our harbor master. He's expanded the mooring fields, and revenue into the city is increasing. So from the business perspective, being cognizant of every dollar that the taxpayer has to shell out, hopefully we will see a return for the businesses that we need to increase in our city. So with that, I will be supporting this.
Thank you, Councilor Cox.
I also want to touch on something that nobody else has touched on, is that this is a permanent home for Discover Gloucester, which ties into the tourism economy with the visitors, community boating center. Sorry, Steve. And I think it's important that the harbor master and Discover Gloucester are working really well together. The welcome packet that the boaters are getting when they come in is a project from both of those. So Discover Gloucester is equally excited about this new facility as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I also will be supporting this. We are often at times said that we don't have a long-term strategic plan, but this is an example of where we actually do. We have, over the past few years, have been increasing access to the water And you can look at the Lanes Cove seawall and this and the Magnolia Pier and the dredging of the Annisquam River. They all are of a piece, and at the end of the day, increasing access both for our citizens and for visitors, and it all goes to the good. So, anybody else? So we'll have a roll call.
Counselor Nolan?
Yes.
Counselor O'Hara?
Yes.
Counselor Cox?
Yes.
Counselor Gilman?
Yes.
Counselor Hecht?
Yes.
Counselor Holbrook?
Yes.
Counselor Blank?
Yes.
And Counselor Lumberg.
Yes.
The loan authorization to amend loan order 2018-007 to $2,500,000 passes on a vote of 8 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 absent.
Motion to reconsider, please.
Second.
Motion to reconsider. This would be the no vote if you want this, the loan order to go forward. So, Counsel.
Counselor Nolan? No. Counselor O'Hara?
No.
Counselor Cox?
No.
Counselor Gilman?
No.
Counselor Hecht?
No.
Counselor Holbrook?
No.
Counselor Blank? No. And Counselor Lumberg?
No.
Motion for reconsideration fails.
Thank you very much. Good work, guys. Good work to the administration's team. Thank you very much.
Hello,
Yes.
councilors. Through the city council president, could we please have a 5-minute recess? Please.
Okay, must be something that...
Okay,
wasn't done
5-minute
right.
recess.
Yeah. Okay.
5-minute recess. So we're back in session, and Madam Clerk, the next order of business will be for us to revisit the motion on the CIP shift, because we forgot to include in our official motion the tax classification factor of 0.9969. So we need to do that. So we need to have a vote to rescind the motion that we passed. So can you all set up to do that?
So moved.
Okay, you want to make a motion?
Make a motion to rescind the last tax classification vote that we
Thank
took
you.
this evening.
It's motion, moved and seconded. All right, we'll have a roll call vote to rescind that motion. This is a good, yes, the yes is what we
Yeah.
want to do.
Counselor Nolan? Yes. Counselor O'Hara?
Yes.
Counselor Cox?
Yes.
Counselor Gilman? Yes. Counselor Hecht?
Yes.
Counselor Holbrook?
Yes.
Counselor Blank?
Yes.
And Counselor Lundberg?
Yes.
1 absent. Motion to rescind the city council vote of the tax classification factor of 1.03 passes on a vote of 8 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 absent.
Thank you. Entertain a new motion.
I move that Budget and Finance move to adopt a residential tax classification factor of 0.996900 that equates to a CIP shift of 1.03 for fiscal year 2020, and I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
So it's the same vote.
Same vote. You can vote whatever your conscience did the first time around.
Okay, Counselor Nolan?
Yes.
Counselor O'Hara?
No.
Counselor Cox?
No.
Counselor Gilman?
Yes.
Counselor Hecht?
Yes.
Counselor Holbrook?
Yes.
Counselor Blank?
Yes.
Counselor Lundberg?
Yes.
Okay, the motion to adopt a residential tax classification factor of 0.9969 that equates to a CIP shift of 1.03 for fiscal year 2020 passes a vote of 6 in favor, 2 opposed, and 1 absent.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, next order of business.
Next order of business is public hearing 2019-061, the renewal of the special permit pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 56, and Gloucester Code of Ordinances, Chapter Section 22-153 regarding Pratt outdoor parking permit at Beachland Avenue Number 2.
I'll open the public hearing and ask if anyone wishes to speak in favor. Hello, Mary Jo. For the record, name and address, please.
Attorney Mary Jo Montanino, 186 Main Street in Gloucester. Council President Lundberg and fellow councilors, I'll try to make this very short and sweet for you. This evening's meeting began with public access with the Magnolia Pier and continued with the Community Boating Center, and this renewal of the outdoor permit is also a public access point. For some of you on the council that may not know the address of 2 Beachland Avenue, it's at Long Beach, and it services the Gloucester portion of Long Beach. And for those of you who haven't had the privilege of going to Long Beach, it's a beautiful beach about the same size as Good Harbor Beach, but unfortunately has no parking lot. And so in order for Gloucester citizens or tourists, residents, as well as visitors, Mr. Pratt has for decades been providing outdoor parking. He also provides restrooms, shower facilities, clean-up barrels for the beach. He helps to maintain the beach. He has attendance at all hours of that he's open, and he also, for the traffic in the area, directs the traffic and puts up signs when the lot is full so that we won't have congestion of people turning around. It's also a service for the people that live in those homes. Some of them are year-round residents, some of them are seasonal residents. And at our subcommittee meeting, there was a neighbor gentleman, unsolicited by Mr. Pratt, who came all the way from Boston to speak to the subcommittee about how wonderful the service is that's provided in that area, which I thought was really a tribute to Mr. Pratt. So what we're asking for is a renewal of the permit, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have about any services that he provides as well. There are many, but with that, I close.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Name and address for the record, please.
Leonard Gyllenhaal, 32 Rockport Road. The parking lot in question is directly behind my home. I'd like to correct Mr. Pratt's representative. Long Beach right now doesn't look very nice. It's full of sand and big trucks and a lot of noise because they're reinforcing the seawall. So this is not a good time to go there. But I've known Mr. Pratt since I bought the property in 1978. He has been an excellent neighbor. He's helped me and my family repeatedly. There is an issue when when Good Harbor is full and he's close to full, we do have a backup on Rockport Road, and it's inconvenient for the neighborhood. But it's a small inconvenience. It lasts about an hour, and it only happens 3 or 4 times a year. The rest of the year, it runs very smoothly. He hires local people to help him run the lot. He hires young teenagers and their parents to go pick up on the beach, pick up plastic and leftovers. Often the credit goes to Brad at the hotel, but it's really Rick Pratt that is taking care of the property. And eventually we're going to have homes back there, and all of these issues will go away. He's getting old, just like me. But I just wanted to speak in favor of this project, just in case anybody came up and said there's a congestion in the road at a certain hour. That's true. It's short-lived. It's controlled. I don't believe it's an issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonard. Thanks for coming. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Any Communications, Madam Clerk?
Yes, there are. There are 3 communications in support in which I distributed to you this afternoon. It's one from Karen McGowan of 30A Rockport Road in support, Bill McLaughlin, 30B Rockport Road in support, and from Gina Razzle from 22 Rockport Road in support.
Thank you. Any councilor questions for the applicant, or Councilor O'Hara, did you have one? You're okay. Okay. In that case, we'll close the public hearing and call for the committee report. Councilor Gilman?
Thank you. On a motion by Council Lundberg, seconded by Council Holmgren, the Planning and Development Committee voted 3 in favor, 0 opposed, to recommend that the City Council renew the license for Richard Pratt for an open-air parking lot at 2 Beachland Ave under GCO Section 22-153 with the conditions and restrictions as follows. 1, the lot will hold no more than 225 cars as per the site plan on file with the City Clerk's office dated October 31st, 2014, and that the number of vehicles allowed by this license shall be posted. 2, the following information shall be posted. A, hours of operation. B, hours restroom is open. C, fees charged for parking. D, a sign that says parking lot full is to be placed at the corner of Thatcher and Rockport Roads. 3, an attendant shall be on duty for those hours that the lot is in operation. 4, shrubs along the front of the property shall be maintained. 5, prior to the issuance of the license by the city clerk, the applicant shall pay over to the Cape Ann Motor Inn the sum of $100 for the maintenance of the Gloucester portion of Long Beach. 6, current approval of the Board of Health toilet facilities and the fire chief must be on file with the city clerk's office. 7, the City of Gloucester will not be held liable for any claims incurred by the parking lot operation. 8, a counter is to be used to count the number of cars coming into the parking lot, and a daily log be signed and maintained by the applicant to be made available to city officials upon request. 9, grass to be cut in and around the parking lot at all times at the permit holder's expense. 10, barrels to be brought in at the end of the day and brought out in the morning during the season of operation of the open-air parking lot. 11, that the automated teller machine, ATM, on the lot be in operation during business hours only. 12, the license runs from May 1st, 2020 to April 30th, 2025, and I shall move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. You want to have any commentary with that?
I want to say that we had a really delightful conversation in P&D, and the applicant was very in agreement to do that daily log, which is just a help to the building inspector if we get challenged about the number of cars that are parked there, and that was not a problem. And also, they typically always have put the signs up down at Dairy Queen saying lot is full, but they were absolutely agreeable to put it in as a condition, just as an extra reminder for the city. So if that can help the perception if we get that little backlog of cars for that certain half an hour of time, to know that there is a sign as soon as the lot is full out there. And the gentleman that Mrs. Montenegro, did I say your name right? Montanino. I should know that. It's a Gloucester name. I'm sorry. But the gentleman that did show up that night came all the way from Boston, and he just sat, and the meeting ended, and we said, so why are you here? And it wasn't a public hearing. He just said, to support you all for all the good things you do for the community. So send along that message to Mr. Pratt. So I will be supporting this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other council comments? Councilor LeBlanc?
Yes, I will be supporting this evening. I'm not sure how many times I voted for this permit for the Pratts, but I know that what Councilor Gilman said, anytime we have a condition, they agree upon it. We've never had one complaint. We've never had an issue. We talked about the ATM machine last time they were up here. They obliged and put it during business hours only, so that way they don't have people coming in and out of the property. So this is a no-brainer for me. You guys are doing a great service to the community. And if I'm here long enough, I'll vote for it again.
Thank you, Counselor. Anybody else? Okay, this is a voice vote, right? A simple majority. So this is for the motion as Counselor Gilman put forth. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming. Madam Clerk, next order of business.
It's public hearing 2019-062 to amend Gloucester Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 4, Boards, Commissions, Councils, and Committees, Division 4, Council on Aging by amending Section 2-440, established composition, appointment, and terms of members, and Section 2-442, designation of officers, and deleting Section 2-444, mission, and renumbering the reserve sections.
So I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this? Oh, yes. Welcome. Please come forward. Name and address for the record, please.
Emily Ritchie Stavern, 5 Norseman Ave. I was hoping to have any kind of support, but I guess it's just me and y'all. And I think this is the right thing. I'm not really sure. The mayor's office said if it's not, I'm going to hold you accountable, but I think this is it. Okay, cool. So my name is Emily Ritchie Stavern. I'm passionate about local government and human rights. Is this it? Okay, well, cool. That's... No, for the 2, because I'm on Clean City already. Is that this one?
So why don't you tell us why you're here?
Great.
So...
Never mind, I'm going to go home. Thanks so much for all that you do.
Listen, thank you for coming.
Yeah, no problem. Go local
The
government.
home rule petition.
Great.
Okay. Well, we appreciate your being here and participating. Thank you very much, and please come back. Okay, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? No? Any communications?
There are none.
Council questions? I'll close the public hearing. Call for the committee report. Councilor LeBlanc?
Yes. Ordinance and Administration voted 3 in favor, 0 opposed, to recommend that the City Council amend the Gloucester Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 4, Boards, Commissions, Councils, and Committees, Division 4, Council on Aging by amending Section 2-440, established composition, appointment, and terms of members, and Section 442, designation of officers as follows. Division 4, Council on Aging, Section 2-440, established composition, appointment, and terms of members, subsection A. There is hereby established a Council on Aging governed by the Board of Directors to go up to 11 members, subsection B. The mission of the Council on Aging shall be to, subsection 1, identify the needs of the elder population in the community. 2, educate the community regarding the issues facing the seniors and advocate on their behalf. 3, promote the development of programs and activities as well as the coordination of existing services to fulfill the identification needs. 4, maintain the working relationship with governmental and private agencies and organizations. And 5, be cognizant of relevant legislative initiatives and work to respond accordingly. Subsection C, the Director of Public Works and the Chairperson of the Board of Health or their respective representatives, as well as the member of the City Council appointed by the City Council President, shall serve as non-voting ex officio members of the Board of Directors. D, members shall be appointed by the Mayor on rotating basis so that there is no more than 3 new members shall be confirmed annually for a 3-year term. E, all appointed members shall serve as the pleasure of the mayor's office and be free from professional conflict of interest. Section 2-441, members not compensated. The members of the Council on Aging shall serve without compensation. Section 2-442, designation of officers. The officers of the Council on Aging shall consist of a chairperson, a co-chairperson, or vice chairperson, and secretary. Section 2-443, supervision. The Council on Aging shall be under the administrative supervision of the mayor. Let's see, section 2-444-449 is reserved, and I so move.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any commentary, or do we all understand what we're doing?
Counselor, I'd like to amend Section 2-440, Section C, by deleting the chairperson of the Board of Health and adding Public Health Director.
Second.
Moved and seconded on the amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I'd like to, for the narrative through the chair, I'd like Councilor Gilman to explain.
Okay, Councilor Gilman.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank Attorney Payson, who is still here in the corner, because he really helped with this project, which was to make sure that our code of, our ordinances were consistent with the bylaw, which we had approved by the council, not necessarily, but we did about 4 years ago. And now we've done the right thing with introducing this into the code of our code of ordinances. So thank you, Attorney Payson. So the highlights of the changes that were made is that the mission in the past had made a reference to bylaws, and we don't need to do that in our code. We also wanted to be clear that the council member, DPW member, and Public Works director, Public Health Director, who right now is Karen Carroll, who sits on the committee, that they will all be appointed as ex officio non-voting members. So that was something that we wanted to add, and that was something that came out of one of our first O&A meetings, and we took it back, and we wanted to be fair to all of our other ordinances that we have on public boards, volunteer boards, and so we made that change. And then finally, that the council president appoints the ex officio member from the council. So those were the major changes that we made, but I also have to say that the Council on Aging Board, of which I sit in on, we looked at both versions, so they have had input on it, which I appreciate, and they are all in support of this with that one change, where we wanted to make sure that it was the Public Health Director in this, and that is the correct version that we made the amendment for. So it's great buy-in, and it's appreciated, and I hope that the council approves this as we are recommending. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any councilor comments or questions? So we can just, as a simple majority, all those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Gilman, for doing that. Madam Clerk, next order of business.
Next order of business is public hearing 2019-063 to amend Gloucester Code of Ordinances, Chapter 9, Trash, Recycling, and Litter, Article 3, Prohibition on Single-Use Plastic Straw, Stir Sticks, and Hot Stoppers, Section 9.25, Servability, Effective Date, subsection B, by deleting, this chapter shall take effect as of July 1st, 2021, and adding, this chapter shall take effect as of July 1st, 2020.
Open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Are there any communications?
There are none.
Any councilor questions? Then I'll close the public hearing. Call for the committee report. Councilor Gilman? Nope. No, Councilor O'Brien.
Yes. Ordinance and Administration voted unanimously to recommend that the City Council amend the Gloucester Code of Ordinances, Chapter 9, Trash, Recycling, and Litter, Article 3, Prohibition of Single-Use Plastic Straws, Stir Sticks, and Hot Stoppers, Section 9-225, Severability, Effective Date, subsection B, by deleting this chapter, shall take an effect of July 1, 2021, and adding this chapter shall take effect as of July 1, 2020, and I so move.
Second. Moved and seconded. So we're just changing the effective date, right? Anybody have any comments? Councilor Gilman?
I just want to thank Ken Hecht for putting this through and his perseverance and getting us this far. So thank you, Councilor Hecht.
Hallelujah.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
No.
Oh, that's right, Mr. Why Not. Madam Clerk, next order of business.
Next order of business is for council vote, decision to adopt special city council permit 2019-005, Chestnut Street, number 6-8, map 13, lot 53, Gloucester zoning ordinance, section
We have enough if you recuse
3.2.2A, for the decrease in minimum open space per dwelling unit.
Councilor Gilman?
Oh, hold on, I have to recuse myself.
Oh, right.
Under Chapter 268A, I have done work on this building before.
Okay. Councilor Gilman?
I move to adopt.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Oh, we need a roll call. Okay. Well, let's
Need a
go.
roll call.
Nope, sorry. Sorry, Councilor LeBlanc.
Okay. Councilor Nolan?
Barely.
Yes. Councilor O'Hara?
Yes.
Councilor Cox? Oh, she left.
Councilor
Okay.
Cox is gone.
Councilor Gilman? Yes. Councilor Hecht?
Yes.
Councilor Holgram? Yes. Councilor Blank is recused, and Councilor Lumberg?
Yes.
Okay, so we have the motion for the decision to adopt passes. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, one absent.
Councilor LeBlanc is back.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, next order of business.
Next order of business is the update of the Stage 4 Park Advisory Committee and the Magnolia Woods Oversight and Advisory Committee by City Council Representative Councilor Sean Nolan.
Councilor Nolan?
Right now, with both committees, we have a lot going on, but a lot of stagnant stuff. Really nothing precedent. The visitor center is under construction. The city's doing a great job working with them, and we should have more updates in the next time this comes up. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. So we're going to have council's request to the mayor, and then we're going to go into executive session. We're not coming back out before adjournment. So this is the last point at which we'll do anything public. Any council's request to the mayor? Councilor Hecht? Gilman?
Don't we have to come back out for, we do have to adjourn after. We come back into open session and then we make an adjournment after executive session, right?
No? We don't have to. I've got all this stuff here that we don't have to do it.
I just have a couple things to announce. Ward 4-2 meeting tomorrow night, November 13th, 6:30 to 8:30 at Lanesville Community Center, 8 Vulcan Street. You are all invited to attend if you would like. Ward 4-1 ward meeting on November 21st, Thursday, 6:30 to 8:30 at the Gloucester United Methodist Church. Again, you're all welcome to attend. Also, there's an exciting one-year anniversary celebration of the Virginia Lee Burton Writing Cottage from 1 to 3 this Saturday, November 16th, to celebrate our one-year anniversary, to listen to children's stories. Children can do art and enjoy an anniversary cake, and that's from 1 to 3. And as you all remember,